Hey kiddos, this is Jojo Bear, and you are listening to Sex Talk with Jojo Bear. Why are you listening to this? Because there's something that has interested you in the title. So, what I wanted to talk about is how do we take in sex? Okay, so let me just give you a second. Just give yourself a second and ask yourself, when you hear the word take or taking, what comes up for you? Right? Most of the time, for some folks, not for everybody, taking like has a connotation to stealing, coveting, uh, war, assault. Like that's, I'm taking something from you. And a lot of times growing up, maybe in religious homes or in really strict homes, they say don't take anything, like don't ask for anything, don't take anything. Anyway, so my thing is I teach this model called the Wheel of Consent that was created by Dr. Betty Martin, and who's a friend and a colleague, and she created this real beautiful way to just kind of be in consent. Okay, so one of the quadrants in that wheel is taking, right? And so one of the things that I do as a guide for folks, especially around like somatic practices and their body and their sexuality and the sex and all that stuff, is I try to help people be in that space of taking. Okay, and so let me give you a little bit of an example. Have you ever seen a little like a baby? Have you had a baby around you? And I'm not talking I'm not talking like older dude wearing diapers. That is totally fine too, but we're not talking about that. That might be a different video. But like a baby is usually taking, right? They're taking. And let me explain this a little bit more. You see them, they grab their hands, they're grabbing stuff, they're touching stuff, they're basically taking in information, sensation, and what I've witnessed is pleasure. You see the cooing of a baby, and and so that is what we're talking about when we say taking, or what I'm talking about when I say taking. So how do we do this? Okay, let me just give you a little bit of language piece. So the Wheel of Consent is really great for languaging stuff, right? It's only a model, it's not the end all, but it's just a beautiful model that I feel can actually be helpful for you. So when someone says, how do I practice taking? Well, I think the language piece here that's really important is utilizing the may I, right? So think about it. If I said, may I touch you, or may I touch your arm for my pleasure, then we know we're guaranteed that it is for the person who is asking, right? So I know it's for me if I say may I, right? So that is one way to practice being in taking. Okay, and so let me go back to the baby. So as a child, some folks learn through society, through culture, through household, through also a lot of really fucked up situations, abuse, whether it's emotional, sexual, physical, to learn how to not kind of take, right? It's like I know in my life that I got to a point where it's like it's better to give, right? It's actually safer to give. Y'all following me? So it's better to give. So what happens is that a lot of folks, especially when it comes to sex, stay in that space of serving and giving, which is totally okay. If that is You're seen and you like that. That's totally okay. But living in that 24/7 can actually be really debilitating to who you are sexually or erotically. You following me? Okay, so let me give you a little bit more detail, right? So one of the things that we practice in the wheel of consent, and one of the things I do with clients is to really zone into that action to benefit yourself, right? Now I know you're going to probably say, oh my God, like that's so selfish. Well, it's okay to be selfish. Like, why wouldn't you want to be selfish? Why wouldn't you want to have pleasure? That is one of the biggest epidemics that's happening right now. A lot of people are not that are a lot of folks are finding pathways to find pleasure and not actually disturb anybody, right? You see that we're on the phones all the time. We're getting that digital like addictive kind of zing from being on our phones, or quick sex, or eating, or rushing. There's ways that we can have that, but here what I'm kind of talking about is that how do I take an action to benefit myself, right? And so I start with just taking, right? So one of the things that we do is, we practice like waking up the hands. It's a practice where you're just taking in by touching an object. It's very subtle, very easy, very simple. And yet it could be very, very, very scary and confusing. And almost some folks find it, I can't feel anything. And that's okay, because taking is something that I feel is, we were born with it. I'm going to say I was born with this kind of space to just take, purely to gather information, to please myself, to feel good. And so what I'm doing when I'm practicing just like waking up my hands, or touching something without working. Okay, so here's the key ingredient here. We don't have to fucking work. Like, this is no work involved. It's really just leaning back and touching an object. Or better yet, if you're actually touching someone else, bringing in that language piece and saying, may I touch your hand, right? May I touch your hand for 2 minutes? Obviously, there's going to be another person involved. So they have to think, do I want my hand touched? Let me give you my limits, all of that stuff. But the opportunity to just sit back and take in the sensations, take in the pleasure, simply because it is our birthright, right? Now, one of the things that we get confused about when we think of taking is that kind of shadowy side where I take without consent, okay? Which is so part of our fucking culture. Don't you agree? The perpetrators, the stealing. Hell yeah, we have a billion, zillion, quadrillion, if that exists, like space. We spend so much money on war. It is like, it's a business. It's as big as Amazon, or maybe Amazon's bigger. I don't know. And so all of these things are embedded into our culture as humanity, is that we find ways to take and dominate and perpetrate and take. And what I'm saying, what I'm inviting, if you just want to like have better sex, like keep it fucking simple. If you want to have better sex, is just learn how to take, how to just sit back, don't work, ask for permission, utilize your voice. May I touch you for my pleasure? May I have 5 minutes of your full attention? May I wrap my arms around you? Right? It's super liberating, right? Super, super liberating. So here's the thing. It helps. It helps. If you're stuck in a rut with sex and you're a giver, raise your hand if you're a giver, okay? Then you can understand how beneficial it is to practice taking and utilizing that language piece of may I? May I try this? May I touch your hair? May I touch your beard? This is for me. This is totally for me, right? So, will it help your sex life? Absolutely. Do you have to practice it? Absolutely. So, let me know how it goes. I am just the messenger. I'm just passing along information. I don't know everything. So, y'all might know something really way more profound and celestial that I don't know. But this is just my tip. So, thank you for listening and much love, and just keep listening. I mean, I'm a talker, as you know. Ciao for now.